Welcome back, everybody. Derek Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Well, did you see the opening picture there? Did you know that agency exists here in Oakland? At least it existed pre COVID. And I visited that office because Libby Shaft told me to go visit there when she was mayor. And then Sarah Bedford, who was at the time the director of homeless services, told me to go there. Well, when I got there, there's one person there, and that's it. There was one young lady who was at the desk there, and I said, I'm here for housing assistance, as the sign said. This is Oakland's Community Housing Assistance Center. And she gave me a clipboard. Here, fill out these forms and bring it back. And so I sat there, wasted my next 10 minutes filling out those forms, handed it back to her. And then she says, Oh, all the information on housing is right here on the board on the wall. And I looked at her, it's like, why did I fill that clipboard on the questionnaire with all my information? She said, well, that goes into the city information center for folks looking for housing. And yeah, uh, didn't make any sense to me either. And then the sad part was, it wasn't just a small area. We are talking an entire floor. This was I believe it was the sixth floor of this of downtown, and I mean, it just frustrated me because this was set up for helping the community get housing. And so what I've been saying is we need to restore a program that the city once had, and that was the community development assistance program. And we had Section 8 housing. Um, and these homes, while they weren't great, they weren't bad either. And then we had the Acorn projects, which were part of the Oakland Housing Authority at one time. And the Oakland Housing Authority was a very important and vital agency for a lot of low income families and families that happened upon bad times. And so I know about a lot of these the homes that were destroyed that helped create the Hagenberger Expressway. There used to be over 120 single family, single story homes that used to exist along that corridor. And that was part of the Oakland Housing Authority back in the 50s and 60s. And these were Section 8 housing. And how I know about these is because my nanny, she was black, and a lot of her family members lived in these units. And so we would just drive a short distance from where my parents' home was in the Oakland Hills at the top of 64th Avenue down to this area and visit her relatives and friends that lived in these project homes. And so that's how I know the area so well, and I know the people so well. I grew up here. I was born 1960 right here on 64th Avenue in Oakland. In fact, the home still sits there today. It's a dark gray color, and the address there is 2608 64th Avenue. That was the first home where I was born into. My parents owned it bought it in 1958, stayed in there until they purchased the other home at the other end of 64th Avenue. Uh, and we moved in January of 1966 to 64th 37 Buenaventura Avenue, and that's right at the very top of 64th Avenue. And the top, it makes a V like this, and 64th Avenue comes up well, kind of in an angle like this. And so I grew up East Oakland. I'm born and raised, I tell people, born and raised East Oakland. And I know the neighbors. I grew up during a time that we call white flight. And that was when all of the white covenants were being dismantled. All the Caucasian folks were literally selling their homes in droves to get out of this East Oakland because all the covenants had been deemed illegal and were being removed. And in fact, a lot of covenants were broken. My friend, who's my late friend, Paul Washington, his family was one of the very first um, families that was of color. And it because his dad looked very Caucasian, uh, he was able to buy in a covenant um, area, namely 81st Avenue, no, 82nd Avenue. And they broke the covenant. And so things were also changing in East Oakland. Stores were the where the Eastmont Mall is currently, and it's a dead mall right now, and it's being converted to the new Oakland Police Center. And so last year, 2022, Alameda County Social Services moved out of that location, and so uh, and the location is now over on Eads Avenue, if I uh, remember right, 85th Avenue, Eads Avenue. And so anyway, there were low cost housing solutions, and all you had to do was have a Section 8 voucher to get into these homes. They weren't luxury homes by any means, but it was a roof, and we didn't have a homeless situation like we do today. And how this homeless situation really came about was when we elected, or the city of Oakland elected Jerry Brown. And he started erasing a lot of the programs. In fact, he did away, when he was with as a governor, he did away with redevelopment, community redevelopment agencies. And so that created big problems when he came into Oakland, because he dismantled that, and that means also defunding Oakland Housing Authority. He couldn't close it, but he greatly reduced its effectiveness. And what he also did was sell off those properties in auctions, and use the money for other things here in Oakland, not not properly. And so while I did vote for him initially, as in the first term, to put him in office, because he was the only uh, the only candidate in 1998 that spoke about building affordable housing. No other candidate, you know, in that race or before him ever spoke about increasing the residents of Oakland by 10,000 new residents, and bringing new housing opportunities. And in fact, for a short time, my second wife and I lived in one of those new buildings that he talked about in 2002. We moved into the Essex #1 Lakeside for 2 years. That was one of those projects, developments that came about in the gentrification of Oakland. But Oakland has a location that we could set up this agency, or re-establish this agency to a new standard. And then what we do, we stop paying the $10 million plus out to a third party agency, an intervention agency that does not help. In fact, all of these third-party intervention agencies have made Oakland and Alameda County's homeless situation worse because they have no accountability. And so it's time for all of them to go. Literally, they got to go. And they know who they are. But there's got to be a change. And social housing is the way to do it. And we're not talking about luxury housing or anything like that. We're talking about warehouses because there's a project in Berkeley right now. This is the first level. Get people off the street, get them out of the environment and out of the weather type situation. These are warehouses, literally warehouses being rented out, and then spaces cordoned off for indoor camping. And that's the first level of housing. And these warehouses have bathrooms and showers, a cooking kitchen area, a community TV room, community area. Social services are on site 24/7. And the best thing, they address the biggest problem of shelters out there, and they allow guests. Friends and family can come into the community center and visit with people who reside there in these warehouses. And that's one of the biggest complaints that I always hear about uh, in a shelter situation. And I've been in shelter situations, and so I know exactly what they're talking about. And we need to start having more accountability. And this program in Berkeley just won a Jefferson Award. And so that's how effective it is. And it gets people off the streets. It gets them up into a safe environment where they can actually calm down and start not being so stressed and so full of anxiety. And then when people are able to relax, then they're able to not be so defensive and not have so much uh, drug dependency or alcohol dependency, because that's what is at the root of a lot of these issues: stress and street dangers. And so by having something like this as one of your safety nets, a warehouse, and then these can be set up, and these are set up pretty nice. And I've seen this on the Jefferson Award video for this group here in Berkeley, and it was very appealing because it gives them a space that they can call their own, and they set up their tent. They have a small area for storage, and then for some additional storage, there's a larger area for their possessions. Uh, but then in their immediate area, it has to be kept to a certain standard. There's bathrooms, showers. The warehouse is heated indoors, so they're comfortable. You don't have the wind, the rain, and all the elemental dangers that um, come with living outdoors. And so this is a good transition from the street. And they're able to go in and out 24/7. It's just a simple checkout, check in, and that's it. And then friends are able to visit, friends and family are able to visit during visiting hours, which are reasonable, typically from the breakfast and then up until bedtime at 9 o'clock. And so that's a more than sufficient amount of hours for visiting, open visiting in the community areas. Nobody's except residents are allowed in the sleeping and areas, but in the community areas, that's where friends and family can visit and hang out with the folks that are residents there. And everybody has a lock for their stuff. It's secured. Your tents, that's up to you. And that one, you want to have good neighbors, so that Everybody has to go through a background check there, and and it's essentially a low barrier shelter. There's food there, there's water, um, there's social services, job assistance. So everything is uh, in the center. They don't have to go anywhere. And then healthcare is there available too. And so this is a very good model. This is a model that needs to be duplicated here in Oakland because it's effective. It's 92% effective. That's the actual numbers that they've given out, and nearly everybody uh, from there, the 92%, move on into housing, permanent supportive housing, or temporary transitional housing as they transition from the street into another temporary situation, but a longer term situation. And it's also towards the finalization of getting into permanent supportive housing with a continuum of care. And so these are all important um, things that we should be looking at. And because we know that the current model does not work, third party intervention agencies, all that did was shift the blame. Shift the blame down the road. Don't blame the politicians. Don't blame the administrators. Don't blame the city. Blame the third party agencies. Well, no, the city needs to be held accountable for the lack of um, matrices and um, achievements that they should, things that they should be achieving year in, year out, and reporting to the public for transparency, number one, so that we can also see that they're earning their money. And currently, there's no accountability because they don't have to turn over any factual information. We had that stonewall from BACS, Bay Area Community Services, and we had them all over the news pre-COVID and going into COVID. We nailed them pretty good, and you don't hear. BACS has been disassociated from City of Oakland, and in fact, City of Oakland threw them out essentially. But I have people in BACS programs currently, and they're quietly running in East Oakland, and they're doing very well. And I'm actually very happy with what BACS is doing with their new program versus the old program. City of Oakland threw them out. They took in another agency, um, Housing Consortium of the East Bay, and um, Darren Lowndes has just been a horrible administrator leader there. Um, I tried to get him some good press, and in fact, he ended up pissing off the reporter and uh, the videographer. So, because obviously they didn't want us exposing something. We didn't know what we were exposing. We were just going in there to interview some of the folks that I had been able to install into that program, and that's the whole thing. And we were just trying to get some information from those folks, but they didn't want it. So obviously they have a lot to cover up, and then they're the ones that really screwed the pooch of this East 12th and 2nd Avenue uh, village, the homeless village, where the Union Point Rising was one of the sections, and then we had Oakland, and then what ended up happening, a lot of the city administrators left and left it up to the city council, and city council, you know, royally screwed the pooch after that. And there was a fire, were fights, and now it's being closed down, and it's being cleared out right now. And it was a horrible model that they were trying to achieve, trying to Oakland model, and it didn't work. And I knew it was going to fail because the person that they were recognizing at the ceremony, the opening ceremonies, it was going to fail. So anyway, one of the things that um, Oakland needs to do in order to make the project work, they need property. And in order to get the property, they should be utilizing, because there's so many empty warehouses right now and so many vacant properties. City of Oakland really should be using certain properties. They should be evaluating them and then using a legal eminent domain process on these properties and acquire these properties. They're not stealing them. What they're doing, since they're sitting empty, they have no market value. And what we're going to be doing is going back and looking at Alameda County's assessed value. How much does Alameda County value put on the tax roll? How much are their taxes? And then what the city should be doing is eminent domaining those properties, paying the county recorder office price, the value approximately, or negotiate it. There's not going to be, this is not for profit. These owners are not going to be profiting from these properties unless they own them for decades and decades and decades. But get rid of third-party intervention agencies, saves $10 million. So that $10 million could be used to purchase these properties in the eminent domain, because believe me, the properties on the county tax rolls are severely or very low in a lot of cases, unless they've been turned over and resold recently. But there's a lot of properties that sit for pennies on the dollar, and that's what the city of Oakland should be looking at. These properties. One of these properties is right here in East Oakland. It's a almost 8-acre site over here on near Edgewater and Hagenberger. It used to be the Union Bank property. It used to be the headquarters for Union Bank, and then they tore down the building, demolished everything, so that it's just raw land. Sewer system still there, electrical is still there, probably just needs to be re-examined and everything, but it can be turned into a very viable affordable housing situation where we can put up a multi-story building and create low-cost housing very cheaply. And that's something that we should be investigating it, because city can acquire the property very cheaply and put it under the community land trust, so that it's taken off the tax rolls. It's no longer taxed. It's community property for good. And one of the things that I did look up, eminent domain is legal. It is legal to seize, condemn private property whenever necessary or appropriate to use land in the execution with proper compensation of community good. Building affordable housing, I truly believe, qualifies as community good. What do you think? What do you think about that idea of using eminent domain on a lot of these empty and abandoned properties? I think it should be a high priority to consider that, and then this way we can clear our streets of the homeless, the truly homeless, and then we that leaves the exposed criminals for the Oakland police to more easily deal with. We shut down street encampments completely. We have warehouses, which are controlled environments, but also elected leaders for all of these sites. It's not manned like a prison. We use a new model, and I've been talking about that model for a long time also, and it comes out of a very successful program up in Oregon. But thanks for joining me today. What do you think about eminent domain and warehouses? Let me know. We'll be right back.